Hey everybody, welcome back to the Lucky Paper channel. My name is Andy, and we are here with another draft. This time around we are drafting my Neoclassical Cube, which is a old border-inspired cube, but not strictly all old border cards. There are some new cards in there that are not old border that I've included that fit the sort of theme of the old border cube. It's only the second time I've ever played this cube. The first time my draft was kind of a disaster, even though I managed to salvage a ever so slightly winning record. I don't really know what to make of this. The bot's been broken on Cube Cobra for a long time, so I'm not exactly sure how this cube is going to play out, what's going to be good, what's going to be bad, but we're going to find out together. I'm just going to start in Tolarian Academy. It's not as safe a pick as a Bloodstained Mire. Fast Bond is good, Fire Imp is good, Achroma is good for the Reanimator deck, but this has a really high ceiling, and I want to draft the Artifact deck, so that's what we're going to start on. This is a very synergistic list, so one of the things I've noticed about old school Magic relative to more contemporary Magic is that a lot of the power outliers really required you to work quite a bit harder than modern power outliers do. You just had to build around them, basically, to make them do anything. And so I've kind of stuck with the spirit of that. There shouldn't be many individual power outliers. There's going to be things like, for example, Tolarian Academy or Fastbind. You got to do some work to make good. So here we are looking at Nev's Disc as a control piece, Urza's Bauble as a simple way to filter through our deck, Fire Diamond maybe, but we're not really missing out on anything here. There's nothing great in this pack. Ash Barrens is fine, but it's not a really powerful pack, so I don't feel bad taking kind of a... Well, here's the thing. I'm going to take Disc. I'm not sure what kind of blue deck we're going to end up being, but having Disc as a board wipe I think is quite good, so I think we're going to go with that. Just edging out these other two artifacts. I'm not forcing an artifact deck, okay? Maybe we'll end up there, maybe we won't, but so far, Tolarian Academy I think is worth building around in that first pick. And then Nev's Disc is a good follow-up card, so we'll see where we go from here. All right, so in this pack we have Mishra's Bauble, Moss Diamond, and Voltaic Servant, one of the new cards. A lot of the new cards I included I tried to have be callbacks to old cards, if at all possible. So Voltaic Servant as a call to Voltaic Key, and there's a lot of little artifacts with tapping and untapping synergies we can work with here. For example, we already have Nev's Disc, which we can then untap with our Servant and wipe the board before our opponent gets to do anything. But I think I just like Mishra's Bauble here. It's cheap. I think it's just basically beating out Merfolk Looter and Forbid for me. Again, none of these other cards are huge pulls, so I think I'll go with the safe little cantrip that's on theme. All right, now what do we got? We got a Brainstorm, a Psychosis Crawler. There is a Megrim combo deck floating around this cube, which would be really cool to draft maybe. Brainstorm is just good, card selection. Dark Ritual is kind of a broken ramp spell. I'm not sure what we're ramping out with it yet, but we could speculate on a Dark Ritual here. Beyond that, a lot of, Hypnotic Spectre is really good. If we take Dark Ritual, wheel Hypnotic Spectre, then we could be in a different kind of deck. I think I'm going to take the Brainstorm, though. There are a fair amount of fetches floating around here. We should be able to get some fetch lands to pair with our deck to maybe get some shuffles in. All right, Reanimator looking kind of open with Putrid Imp and Scion of Darkness coming around. Raphelos is also a sign that mono green or heavy green is kind of open. And then we have some replacement level stuff here with Think Twice, Recoil. Mishra's Helix, I think, is a fine card, but and it's good with Academy for sure, but I don't think we want to commit that hard. I think we should probably follow the signals a little bit here and see that maybe Reanimator is open. Maybe. Because I'm not going to be that hard into green for Raphelos, so really we're looking at a Reanimator piece, and let's take Putrid Imp. A little less replaceable. If we don't play it, we don't end up playing it. Now, I do really like this Icy Manipulator here. I think that's a good look. We don't have the Voltaic Servant, but I think it might come back around, and I'm kind of hoping it does. Loam Lion is here for the Naya Zoo deck. Gargantua is a fine card. Spiritmonger is a fine card, but yeah, I like Icy here. Okay, so here I think is one of the big payoffs for this artifact deck, which is Karn Silver Golem. Now remember, we're playing old school Magic here. We don't get Urza Lord High Artificer. We don't get some of these more messed up broken artifact matters payoffs. We get Karn Silver Golem, which lets you turn all of your artifacts into creatures and beat your opponent's face in. So I think I'm going to take that. I'm looking for some ramp now, because I've got a pretty heavy top end already. Here, I'm happy with Is It Boilerworks, to be honest. I like these dual lands. Given that I already have Tolarian Academy, I'm kind of interested in picking up like a Frantic Search, maybe, which would allow me to then untap this land as well for some extra mana. Nothing else here is super duper appealing. So we'll take the bounce land. How are we looking? We have the okay beginnings of a decent artifact deck right now. I'm going to keep this Putremp in the sideboard. We may end up being a little flavor of Reanimator, maybe. But the deal with these old school Reanimator decks is, yeah, you're putting something like a Chroma into play. You're not putting into play something like Grizzlebrand or Archon of Cruelty that just ends the game immediately. You're putting into something a little more incremental, and so might not be worth branching out into a completely new strategy for such incremental threats. We will see. Bauble Boilerworks Academy. Yeah, I mean, I like what we got going on here. All right, so Fastbond came back around. Very interesting. It is a build around. I don't think you can just jam Fastbond in any deck. But if you do have a deck that Fastbond works in, it's kind of nuts. And what you want really is wheel effects for Fastbond, for the most part. It's also really good with the bounce lands, with your Is It Boilerworks and friends. You just get to play a bunch of lands, take a little damage, untap with a bunch of mana. Or we could play an Ichor Wellspring, which is pretty replacement level. Maybe we'll end up in a Welder deck, in which case this becomes hugely appealing. Or maybe we end up in a Wheel deck, in which case Fastbomb becomes appealing. So the wheels are, we have Windfall in blue, Wheel of Fortune in red, and Memory Jar in all colors. Memory Jar particularly good. These packs are all stacked up with me. I got to make a commitment. I'm going to take this. If I get Welder later on, I'm going to be so upset. But maybe we'll play this Fastbond. We'll see. Urza's Bauble was a great pickup. We're happy with that. Voltaic Servant, excellent pickup. We love to see that. Here we have two bounce lands. People not respecting these, perhaps. I'm not going to play Nature's Lore or an Ancient Grudge, I don't think. Am I more likely to splash black or red? I already have one red, so let's take another red one. We got the Mishra's Helix for free. I don't hate that. And then, yeah, more bounce lands, which if I end up... I could be like a many-colored Fastbond deck at this point with all of these different bounce lands. Maybe. It's kind of wild, but, you know, you just play them and do early Fastbond, take 4, 5, 6 damage or whatever, but you untap with just incredible amounts of mana, and you can go dummy. So, yeah, if we can get one wheel effect, that would be pretty appealing. Right now we're not playing Fiery Justice, but we will play Fiery Justice in our many bounce land deck. And realistically, we're probably not playing these off-color ones right now. But, you know, a lot can happen. Got a couple people making their last picks here. I like this start. This is a much more focused start than the first time I drafted this cube, where I ended up in a big Jund pile deck that just kind of had a mess of stuff going on. But I like these baubles. I swear, if I get Welder or one of the other Goblin Welders, Goblin Engineer or Scrap Welder, I'll be so mad I didn't take that Ichor Wellspring. The cards that you can loop for value don't really exist in Old Border Magic. That's why I'm playing Ichor Wellspring, which does have an Old Border printing, but is actually a new card, because really, old school Welder decks, there's not a lot you can actually loop for value. Memory Jar is one of them, though. Okie dokie. Now, we got some decisions to make here. So, the first card that jumps out at me is Wildfire. As of right now, we actually have no mana rocks. So, not great. But we are the kind of deck that's going to want a lot of mana rocks, like this Mind Stone, for example. Once you have enough of those, you can play this Wildfire, blow up the whole world, and then hopefully follow up with a Karn, animate all your mana rocks, and attack. That would be sick. You can also get them to block Karn, make it into a 0-8, and then cast Wildfire. That's pretty spicy. But I'm going to take this Mind Stone and see if this Wildfire wheels, because I really need the mana rocks before that's any good. So I'm going to take this first and see where we end up. If I was a little heavier in red, I do have all these red bounce lands, so that's something. And the bounce lands are also really good with Wildfire, but I kind of think it might come back around based on the things we saw wheel in the first pack. Famous last words, but we'll see. We'll see. Now, I do really like Icy Manipulator, Voltaic Servant. You just get to tap a bunch of stuff down. We want a lot of mana in this deck. We're leaning pretty hard on the Academy right now, but we're going to really get a lot of mileage out of our mana rocks. We have a lot of mana sinks already in Manipulator, Helix with Voltaic Servant to untap them. Okie dokie. Here, Chroma's Vengeance is a really good card. Really good board wipe. We have a Hallowed Fountain if we wanted to splash some white but not give up on a blue source. We have Jeweled Amulet, which is a complicated card that I think is actually very good and maybe a little bit underrated. And then Serum Visions as just some good card advantage. One of the dangers of a deck like this is you draw too much air. You need to draw the right cards because you do have just a lot of dinky artifacts that don't do a whole lot unless you have one of your big payoffs, which right now our big payoffs are things like Karn and Tolarian Academy, and hopefully something to do with all the Tolarian Academy meta. So I think for me it's between Serum Visions and Amulet, I think. I would take a blue-red duel pretty highly at this point, hoping that Wildflower will come around. We don't have any of those here as options, so I think it's between these two. Jeweled Amulet is ramp. It's a little bit of funky ramp, but it is ramp, and I think we're going to want that tempo advantage and want some cheap plays. That also gives us 3 0-mana artifacts, which is quite a bit to turn on our Academy very early. Something. All right, we'll take the Amulet. See where that leads us. See where that leads us. All right. Volcanic Island and Sky Diamond in the same pack. This is the diamond I'd want most, obviously. It's the blue one. So hard to take a somewhat speculative, I mean a very speculative Volcanic Island at this point over the Sky Diamond. I don't think anything else is really in contention here. Evasive Action is cool, but you want to be many colors before you're doing that. Chimeric Idol is fine, but not a high pick, I don't think. We'll probably wheel it, I think, probably, and we'll just get to put that in our deck for free. I don't think we're wheeling Volcanic Island or Arid Mesa. Sky Diamond we could wheel. That's more likely to wheel than the other two things. I think people are kind of low on the diamonds. Let's take this Volcanic Island and be brave. Fortune favors the brave. Here, Mishra's Factory, Factor Fiction, Force Spike, Fairy Conclave, and honestly, I would definitely play a Chroma Angel of Fury in this deck, I think. Well, maybe not. I would definitely need to be able to morph it. It's nice that you can cast it as just a 3-mana 2/2, so it's not dead in your hand if you don't have your red mana immediately, but to not be able to morph it would be pretty bad. So Mishra's Factory is the kind of win condition I like here. You blow up everything with Nev's Disc, and you get to bash their face in with Factory. But Factor Fiction is probably one of the best card draw spells, and our deck is aiming to have a lot of mana and probably be short of cards. So I think I'm going to stick with the Factor Fiction and give up on Conclave and Factory. I think one of these two might come back. Conclave, if any of them. So maybe we'll get the Conclave back, and we'll be very happy. Here, Underground Sea, Migratory Route, Charcoal Diamond, and Verdant Catacombs. Green seems to be open, so we're not in the green deck, but somebody's going to get fed. Maybe it'll be Anthony. We get to play him tonight. I really like Migratory Route. It's so easy to splash because you get to just cycle it when you don't need to cast it or aren't able to cast it. And when you can make a white mana, just getting 4/1 white bird tokens will definitely end the game. Charcoal Diamond is not that appealing. It's much worse than Mind Stone, and hopefully the blue diamond will wheel. Also, I think even more likely to wheel, honestly, than the blue diamonds. I'm going to take this Migratory Route. It's somewhat speculative. I need to get some white mana in my deck before I'm excited to play it, but I do think it's very good. Speaking of white mana, Mother of Runes, geez. We're not the Mother of Runes deck. We could honestly be the Armageddon deck with all these artifacts, but I think we're just going to instead take Felwar Stone here, just edging out Memory Lapse. I do want some interaction, and I have very little now, save for Nev's Disc. And I guess Ice Manipulator and Helix. Helix is not really the same kind of interaction, but it does something. But Felwar Stone is great. We want a bit of ramp. That's one of our better mana rocks. We're going to take it. Ooh, that's a late balance. Oh, I hate seeing balance in the same pack as Azorius Chancery and Marsh Flats and an Ash Barrens, but this is a really big motivation to splash white. So I think the Migratory Route is on the menu because we are definitely taking this balance, and we're going to play it almost certainly, which means that we just got to find some white mana. Winter Orb is interesting. We could do the Winter Orb trick with Icy Manipulator of tapping it for our own untap step, and it's only beating out Exalted Angel at this point. Exalted Angel, we can play as a morph, and then we are going to be playing white mana again. Double white, maybe not as easily. We're going to take Winter Orb. We're going to take the big payoff. Back to the pack we opened. We did wheel Wildfire, though honestly, the way that pack broke down, I don't know that we're going to be the Wildfire deck anymore. I'm going to take it, because we're also not the Trade Wind Rider deck. We don't have that many creatures, and I don't expect to. So I'm going to take it, but it's kind of speculative right now. I would need to get a few more pieces before I'd be excited about playing it. Now, oh man, all these white cards in the same pack. So I'm really excited that Serum Vision's Hallowed Fountain and Akroma's Vengeance all came back around. But I can only take one of them, which is the bad thing. So in terms of board wipes, we have Balance and Nev's Disc, which is good. Nev's Disc, it's worth noting, it does blow up all artifacts, so it is not asymmetrical. This also blows up all artifacts. We have Balance, which is going to be excellent in our deck, which doesn't touch non-creature artifacts. So I think it's between Hallowed Fountain and Serum Visions. We have no fetch lands right now. Serum Visions also kind of fixes mana if you think about it. We haven't seen Tundra yet. How many playables do we have right now? 18 cards minus 3 lands. We're only at 15 playables. I think I got to take the Serum Visions. I need to hit playables. Everyone's waiting for me. All right, we got the Sky Diamond back. We love to see that. We got the Fairy Conclave back. I like that more than Wonder. Forsake the Worldly is a really good card that I can very happily main deck. Honor the Pure is a sideboard card. Oh, we got the Azorius Chancery last. You love to see it. Okay. This is coming together. We got a nice blue-white deck coming together here. Big fan of this. Honor the Pure can get out of here for now. Forsake can actually stay in. Okay, I misclicked that. I'll main deck a Forsake the Worldly in this format if I don't have other things to play. Cycling for 2 is fine, and there are a lot of valuable artifacts and enchantments running around. All right, I like this deck. This deck is coming together. What do I want most? I mean, a Tinker would be amazing, obviously. I would love a Tinker. I would love another solid threat. Like, I would love a Masticore. That would be sick. I would be into another good card draw spell. All right, what we got? We got Triskelion. There's the Goblin Engineer, but I don't think we're on that route. I think we're on the blue-white route, which means I'm looking at Thran Dynamo, Anvil of Bogarden, and Time Warp. Time Warp is really fun for this deck. I do have the mana ramp, right? We've got Academy, some dual lands, 1, 2, 3, 4 mana rocks with the Jeweled Amulet so far, plus Voltaic Servant to untap them. I'm going to do it. I'm going to play the Time Warp. Thran Dynamo might be the pick. I mean, it's really powerful, and it lets me get out all my giant stuff and just have mana for days to work with, plus I can make it a 4/4 with Karn, but it's more replaceable. There's a Gilded Lotus floating around this cube if we open it, so I'm going to take the Time Warp. That's a fun one. There's the Masticore I said I wanted. Am I going to take it over a Hollow One and a Powder Keg and a Condescend? Yes, I am. I'm definitely going to do that. Masticore is still good. I mean, it's really good in this environment. We are going to need extra cards to pitch, which might be an issue here, given how many mana rocks and cheap cards we have, but we can draw stuff with Fact or Fiction and hopefully have stuff to pitch with the Masticore, because we also have a bunch of mana, hopefully, to dump into its activated ability to just mow down creatures. Ooh. Tinker and Decree of Justice in the same pack. I love Decree of Justice, but this has got to be Tinker. I mean, we have 3 0-mana artifacts. We can go and get a Masticore, an Icy Manipulator, a Nev's Disc, Karn, maybe. We don't have like a huge Tinker target yet, but we've got really good value stuff, a little toolbox going on. Passing up on, Lightning Bolt and Decree and some other good stuff, but Tinker's a messed up Magic card. We're going to play it. Makes our deck a lot more consistent to have a Tinker now to go find whatever we need at any given moment. And I kind of expect that Triskelion to come back around, honestly. It's 6 mana. Another, ramp deck would take it, like a green ramp deck. But we wield our Sky Diamond, so I don't think there's anybody else playing a blue artifact deck or a blue ramp deck. So I think it's not unlikely that we will see that come back around. I would also very happily play Crystal Vein, too, honestly. Crystal Vein, we're almost... Ooh, gosh, Upheaval. Can this deck have it all? Can we do everything? Upheaval's another board wipe that, yeah, Yeah, we definitely can. We can do everything. I'm taking the upheaval. Let's add another row here because, another column rather. There's our upheaval column. Here, Scalding Tarn is probably the pick. Oh no, I didn't get the Hallowed Fountain. That's right. I did not get the Hallowed Fountain. So unless I get a red-white duel, which not out of the question, that's not actually super high value. I do have Azorius Chancery. The other card on the table is Mana Leak, which is a really good little counterspell, obviously. We're not really a hold-up mana kind of deck, though with stuff like Icy and Mishra's Helix, Masticore, we could be a hold-up mana kind of deck sometimes. But if I don't get a white... How many white sources do I have right now? I've got Azorius Chancery. I've got maybe Felbar Stone, realistically probably not. Yeah, so I'm just playing a basic mana land base right now. We could also get the irrigated farmland. All right, I'm going to take this because my mana is pretty bad. And even though we only have, 3 new picks to look at, 3 new packs, I want to hedge against there possibly being a Tundra or an irrigated farmland in that pack because it would be really helpful for us. Really, really helpful. I think we did pretty well. I think his deck got there. I think we definitely do play this Voltaic Servant. It might get balanced away, or worse, leave our opponent with a creature in play for balance, but I think it's worth the risk. The upside is there. People are in the tank in this last pack, which I respect. I respect and understand. All right. Didn't get the white-blue land we wanted. Stroke of Genius is fine. I think this is... So a Feto Alchemist I really like with the Mana Rocks and the little untapping tapping theme we got going on here. It's kind of another Voltaic Servant. That one also lets us ramp. We can turn this into another mana source, essentially, if we have a Mana Rock in play to pop a big upheaval. The upheaval does make maybe kind of wish I had Thran Dynamo. Sarah Angel's fine. Double white's going to be hard for us to get. And Stroke of Genius, I don't know. We could mill somebody out, but I'd rather have this little kind of incremental piece. I'm also happy to just trade in combat with a Feto Alchemist, just block and trade with something. We don't need black mana for Underground Sea, though I would love to riffle shuffle my Underground Sea on stream. So I think it's just Ash Barrens. Very happy to get Ash Barrens here. This cube has 20 copies of Ash Barrens in it, which, for exactly that reason, it's nice to get it late. Wow, red, man, Shock and Siege Gang Commander still in this pack. We could honestly play this Prophetic Bolt. We do have a Scalding Tarn and a Volcanic Island, so our splash for red is much easier than our white mana. Or we could just play this Phyrexian Colossus, which we can tinker out early and smash face. But that might be a little win more. I think I like Prophetic Bolt here. I think I do. We can cast it. All right, see, I'd rather have a Triskelion at the top end than a Phyrexian Colossus, I think. It's more realistically castable if we don't have Tinker, and also just a good value card. So that's a good top end there. Into that. How many? So 32 cards minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lands. So we're at 25 cards right now. So this is basically our deck. We can play 25 non-land spells with all these mana rocks. So this could be our 25 right here. Let's see how the rest of this pack breaks down. And this is fine. It is a little top heavy even for a deck like this, I think. We have, 5 drops, which is a lot. One of them we can cycle, which is nice. But that is a lot of 5 drops. Okay, Powder Keg is really good against aggro at the very least. So I'm going to take that. Do I main deck it is the question. I honestly might main deck it over something like Mishra's Helix. Well, Mishra's Helix is so good after an upheaval. It's incredible after an upheaval to drop Mishra's Helix. All right, so now the question. Do I want Ash Barrens for a little more fixing for white? Or do I want Crystal Vein to ramp out one of these bad boys? I think I just want the fixing. Merchant Scroll is also... I mean, this deck, it's actually pretty bad. It gets Factor Fiction or Brainstorm, which is... or Prophetic Bolt, I guess. Which is all fine, but not amazing. I think I want the mana fixing. I want to be able to cast these white spells. Mindless Automaton... Probably not playing that, given that I don't need a discard outlet, but it's fine. It's not terrible in this deck, right? I have no reason to want to discard cards. Am I right about that? No. Anger, sure. We're not playing that. We're playing any of these cards though. Let's get that in the sideboard. Or we can start building here. I'm going to put Migratory Route down here in the 2-drop slot to make my curve look a little better, just for my own sanity. And then the question is, are we main decking Powder Keg? The cards I could see sideboarding to begin are Forsake the Worldly, Powder Keg. Maybe this is just not a Mishra's Helix deck. It's really good after upheaval, but anything's good after upheaval. That's kind of not a great reason to play a card. I'm not going to be tinkering for this realistically. It's cool with Karn because it's also a 5/5, which is not bad. Ooh, Sarah Angel. Honestly... If Double White wasn't so hard, I'd be pretty into playing Sarah Angel in this deck. I think we're going to leave Helix in the sideboard for now. I like Prophetic Bolt and Time Warp more than Helix. Time Warp, I'm honestly not sure how great it is in this deck, but I just like it. I think it's fun. So we're going to do it. Quirion Ranger is the last card. All right, so we don't have to play any mountains because we have Volcanic Island, Scalding Tarn, Isaac Boilerworks. That's 3 sources... plus Brainstorm, Felwar Stone, Serum Visions, all those ways to get to our Prophetic Bolt mana. And we're very happy to cast this Prophetic Bolt late, so I think that's fine. Don't need any red sources. White sources, well, 1 mountain does make all of our Ash Barrens also. No, I don't think I can afford it. I lied. I don't think I can afford it. No auto land. Don't you do this to me. I want no mountains. So if I do this, that's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 lands with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 white sources, but I never have to get to double white. I just need single white for balance, Migratory Route, and Forsake the Worldly if I'm actually casting it instead of cycling it. I think that's all fine. I could see an argument that I'm supposed to play something like a Mindless Automaton over a Forsake the Worldly or a Powder Keg, but I'm going to give myself some options in the main deck so I can have some tools to go get. And then blue sources, just make sure I have enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus 4 is 12. Yeah, that's enough. I guess 13 with the Sky Diamond. I think that's okay. I think that's enough. All right, so I think this is okay. I'm kind of happy with this deck. It's got some splashy stuff it can do. Upheaval is splashy. Tinker into Triskelion is going to be a nice brick wall for a lot of creature decks. Migratory Route is a cool win condition. Time Warp is splashy. And then also we just have Karn animate all of these artifacts and bash your face in. Just go to town. So I don't know. We'll see. I think I'm pretty happy with it. Let me go ahead and snap a picture of this so I'm ready to go. And then I will see you next... Well, I don't edit this, so you're going to catch that. Then I'll see you later on this week for the gameplay videos. This cube is going to be played unsleeved, so tune in for me shuffling a unsleeved Time Warp and Tolarian Academy and Karn, I guess, is technically reserve list, though not that expensive. Powder Keg, I think, is also technically reserve list, though not that expensive. Anyway, tune in to see me shuffle those cards up, and yeah, looking forward to playing these games out. Like and subscribe. Where do I do that?